You're about to listen to the Weekly Business Hour podcast. I am Rick Schissler, Silver Fox Advisor, your host for the show. The show is broadcast live each Monday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on irlonestar.com. You can reach me on my Facebook page, The Weekly Business Hour, or by email at rick@irlonestar.com. The Weekly Business Hour is sponsored by Patricia Cooper Insurance Agency, Taylorized PR, Schooley Mitchell with Jerry Polio, and the Silver Fox Advisors. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy the program.
Good morning, and welcome to the Lone Star Weekly Business Hour. Your host, Rick Schissler, is a Silver Fox advisor who personally has over 40 years of experience as a serial entrepreneur. So sit back, pull out your pad and pencil, and get ready to take notes as we join Rick Schissler in his Lone Star Weekly Business Hour.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us for this week's edition of the Weekly Business Hour. This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox Advisor and host of the Weekly Business Hour. Thanks to the Silver Fox Advisors for being our show sponsor. If you and your business need a mentor or an advisor to help you move your business forward, then learn more about the Silver Fox Advisors at silverfox.org, or you can contact me direct at rick@irlonestar.com. If you're a business manager, owner, or you consider starting a business, then you're in the right place this morning, because the Weekly Business Hour is where Montgomery County comes to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve your business, and to hear from some of our own local business builders on how they found success right here in Montgomery County. If you're ready to do business this week, then let's get started with today's show. Hope everybody is in what I call the holiday mode of doing business. This is the time of year when the dynamics of many, if not all, businesses change. This is true whether you're in retail and this is your big selling season, or you're involved in business to business and subject to the changed work and delivery schedules that the holidays inevitably bring. Quick reminder to you that if any time during the show or after the show you've got a question or a comment, please feel free to call the station. The number here is 936-647-3776. First, let's get started and let's check in with Dick here at Lone Star and see what's on tap with the Lone Star for the coming week. Dick?
Good morning, Rick. We have two things that are coming up this week here with Lone Star that we're directly involved with. One being tomorrow's telethon with Cadence Hope and Lone Star Country Nights with Wayne Michaels. Last year around this time, we did a really cool deal here in the station. We had live music, live hosts, and we did a telethon to help raise money for Cadence Hope. We're returning this year. We're going to have lots of great Texas country artists, especially local Texas country artists. So if you're a fan of Texas country and you're a fan of local, these artists you got to check out. More information can be found online at Cadence Hope's website. It's CAIDENS hope.org. That's cadencehope.org, helping NICU babies and families. So that's tomorrow, starting at the normal time for Lone Star Country Nights at 7 p.m., and it's going to go all the way to 10 p.m. Also, this weekend, I want to let everyone know it's free to attend, is the Vintage Radio Hour with the Crichton Players across the street at the Owen Theater in downtown Conroe. We're coming back with It's a Wonderful Life. It's going to be presented live on stage and broadcasted live here on irlonestar.com at 7 p.m. on Sunday. The doors open at 6:30. It's absolutely free for the entire family, so we invite everyone to become part of a live studio audience, because it's always nice to have those claps and the cheers and everything during the radio plays this Sunday at 7 p.m. with the Crichton Players Vintage Radio Hour.
It's a Wonderful Life. What a great play to show during the holiday season, and as always I do, encourage you, bring out your family. Again, this is a free event. It's a chance to take your kids to the theater and see a fantastic presentation that's right on spot with the holidays. Well, let's get into a little bit of news, hopefully that you can use, news going on around Montgomery County. First, let's talk about some new businesses that are opening here. And this one I personally appreciate because I know a little bit of background. Up in the Woodlands, the last couple of months, a new restaurant opened, Hootie's 5 Free Fire Grill. Brings the South American flair to the Woodlands. Chris Osborne, a long-time small business person in the Woodlands with the Egg and I. I personally believe if you live in the Woodlands, you've bound to have had breakfast at the Egg and I. And so many organizations meet there. Chris has developed a wholly new creation that is his idea and opened up Hootie's 5 Free Fire Grill. That alone, the name, you can't forget that name, Hootie's 5 Free Fire Grill. What Hootie's is a counter service restaurant, kind of like Chipotle, at the corner of Research Forest and Lakeside Boulevard, and they serve customized South American dishes. The idea is you go down the serving line and you decide what you want on the particular dish you pick. The food is fantastic. It's a little different, but it's fantastic. And the free fire part of the name comes from the fact that everything's roasted and grilled right there on an open flame, and you can see it happen. So it's a great, fun kind of place to go out to. And the idea that Chris came up with this idea because he traveled in South America, and he discovered that the cooking fire is kind of the center of society with many of the people down in South America. So this served as an inspiration for Free Fire. It gives the food obviously a unique flavor, and also, again, lets everybody see what's going on. So if you want to have some fun and support one of our great local small business people, entrepreneurs, go out and try Hootie's 5 Free Fire Grill. That's a mouthful, I'll tell you, but a great new business forming in the Woodlands as Chris continues to expand his presence throughout the Woodlands community. Let's switch gears a little bit. Another news item I picked up this week. This was posted on December 5th in the Villager, and this is Lone Star College is considering a Promise program for cheaper college price. I don't know if you're aware of it, but Lone Star, I believe, makes a lot of effort to include or make college available to pretty much anyone, regardless of your economic status. And this is a new program that Dr. Head announced that his staff is trying to put together. It doesn't provide completely free college, but it will provide an opportunity for those that have the most limited budgets to attend college. Because obviously the big question for a lot of folks when they go to college is, how do I pay for it? So what this program is, it was originally set up to include the federal government, but as most of us know, the federal budget is under quite a strain. So they're trying to figure different ways to raise the funding that's necessary. And so one of the things that they've come up with is using scholarships and raising money here in the community to fund this program. And to understand the program a little bit better, some qualifications for those that would qualify. You need to be a first time in college. That's an FTIC, by the way, Texas resident. Secondly, you need to complete the FAFSA, the Federal Financial Aid Application. And third, and I think this is important, you have to have a high school GPA of 2.3 and then be willing to enroll on a full-time basis. Again, this is a funding of last resort for people who have exhausted all other sources but still want to go to school. They just can't afford it. And once you receive this aid, you have to maintain at least a GPA of 2.25. You also have to be involved in civic projects and remain a full-time student. So this is not just a walk in the park or a giveaway to somebody that thinks they want to go to college and thinks they're going to do it on someone else's dime, so to speak. As Dr. Head points out, and this is important, this is about educating our community and about economic prosperity for all of us. They want to have as many people educated as possible. I think that's important to all of us in this community, particularly in the business community, because we know how hard it is to find good people to work. And the fact that Lone Star is making, beyond this, a lot of efforts, but even at this end, they're kind of at one end of the spectrum. They're really trying to make sure everyone who wants to attend gets a chance. Let me give you a quick idea what this means from a dollars and cents point of view. Right now, a year of tuition and fees is about $1,800. So Dr. Head pointed out that the student will have to come up with about $500 or $600. But that's a significant difference. Earning $500 to $600, not as much challenge, obviously, as $1,800. But they will have some, as they say, skin in the game. And this is important. So they continue looking for a funding source, putting together perhaps some fundraising, and we hope to see that program very soon roll out at Lone Star, because then at that point there really is an excuse for someone who really wants to go to college and has that high school education, of course, that they need to not go to college. My last news item today is actually from a cartoon. I thought this was clever. I came across this, and this is about giving. This is the time of the season, the time of the year that businesses, a lot of times there's lots of solicitations going on, lots of people out looking to raise money for nonprofits. And the question is, where does your business fit? What should you be doing in your business, as well as personally, if you're a business owner particularly? And the cartoon I came across was done by an artist, Stocker, published this year, and it shows, if I can describe it quickly, a man sitting at a desk, quill pen in hand, writing the Christmas Carol. If you know that famous story, it's been made into a play, a movie. It's a great story, and it has the little thing, and he's thinking, maybe a visit from ghosts from the past, the present, just like the story says, followed up by a quick pep talk from Zuckerberg. I thought that was clever, and if you didn't catch the news item this last week, Mark Zuckerberg and his wife have decided to give away 99% of their stock that they have in Facebook. If you're not familiar with the name Zuckerberg, I'm sure you're familiar with the name Facebook. Point is, stock was currently valued last week at about $45 billion. So this was quite a commitment. They did it in honor of the birth of their first child, and they will do it over a period of time. With that kind of money, they can sort of fund the things they want to fund and even start initiatives. But my point, I guess, is it hopefully caused a lot of people to think about where they are and what they're doing in their giving and making commitments. I read another good article I felt that was important. You know, we at the end of the year, we tally it up. We look at our P&L, or if you're working for someone as a manager or whatnot, you got a bonus, and you kind of say, well, what's left over? That's what I'm going to commit to give. In this article, they pointed out maybe a better approach would be, okay, end of the year, decide how much you're going to give away next year as well. It's 20% of the bonus or 5% of your profits, whatever, and write it down. Make an internal commitment to yourself so that as the year goes on, you don't lose sight of the fact that you have committed part of what you're able to produce with your own labor and your own productivity to give back to the community. And I think this is a wonderful thing. And by the way, I'm anxious to see the new version of the Christmas Carol where we have the pep talk from Mark Zuckerberg and also some of the other things the comedians have picked up. So that's it for our news today. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to introduce our studio guest. I'm so excited this morning to welcome Dr. Carlos Sanchez, Leaders Without Borders. We're going to talk to him about leadership and training. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Are you paying too much for your personal or business insurance? Patricia Cooper Insurance on FM 1488 and Tamina Road is an independent agency that can shop multiple carriers to find the best rates and coverages to fit your specific needs. Call us today at 281-356-9955 and let us go to work for you. Patricia Cooper Insurance, where our customers are treated like family.
Hi, this is BJ Orner from Montgomery County Performing Arts Society. I'm here to remind you to get your tickets now for all the upcoming events that McPass has to offer. All shows will be held at the beautiful Crichton Theater in downtown Conroe. Call 936-441-7469 for your tickets today, or go to our website, www.mcpass.org, for more information. Hope to see you at the show.
Are you planning on growing, expanding, or possibly selling your business? All of these business opportunities require developing strategies and setting goals in order to achieve success. Providing specialized consulting in these and other key business decisions is what Silver Fox Advisors have been doing since 1986. Let us help you today. Call us at 713-343-3718. It might be the most profitable call that you ever make.
Tailorized PR works exclusively to get your business noticed. Public relations is how others perceive you and your company. By tailorizing the marketing strategy exclusively to your business, your story is told. Tailorized PR services include networking, social media, blogs, press releases, public appearances, and event planning. To learn about Tailorized PR, call Margie Taylor at 936-828-6881 or visit the website at tailorizedpr.com. My business is tailored to yours.
Running a business is hard. Pressure to maximize profits and minimize loss continue to grow. Schooley Mitchell of Houston can help. Their independent consultants will ensure you are receiving the best communications and credit card processing services at the best prices. Most importantly, their services are completely risk-free. If they don't find savings for you, there is no fee. Contact Schooley Mitchell of Houston today to find out. Call 832-314-1815 or visit their website at schooleymitchell.com/JM Polio.
Welcome back. This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor, and you're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. And we're here at my favorite part of the show, and that's talking with our studio guest. And today our studio guest is Dr. Carlos Sanchez, Leaders Without Borders, an area-based global leadership development program. Dr. Carlos, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks for having me, Rick.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us, taking our program a little bit international. I like that. We need to have that flavor. Lots of opportunities outside our own domestic area. There's no doubt about it. To start off, would you kind of give us a background or so we can understand what Leaders Without Borders is?
Absolutely. I think in simple terms, Leaders Without Borders is an organization that provides resources for companies, individuals, to be able to build bridges between themselves and the international community. So we do that by helping them with training or with consulting, with coaching. The premise is most of us as Americans tend to be more centered toward ourselves versus the world. And so we travel abroad and we sometimes make pretty major mistakes with regards to how to interact with people from other parts of the world. And so we provide those resources for people.
Now, is this mainly for business purposes or personal purposes or just everything to learn how to interact?
Well, in general, it is for business and for people who have companies, large or small, who are trying to interact with said community. So, yeah, it's more for business. We do have some personal, some one-on-one, but it's not that's not the thrust.
You know, you bring up a good point because as I sit here and I think about small business, which is my field, that let's go do business overseas.
Right.
And it almost, give me the checklist. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot more than a checklist, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, really, it's more nuanced than a checklist. There's things like, you would be amazed at how much slang we use in the American English vernacular. How much, when we speak English, there's so much slang in it that people who learn English in other countries don't understand us because they learn formal English or the Queen's English, so to speak. Right? So they'll learn English from Britain or from England, and they just don't understand our English because we use so much slang. Just cleaning that up makes a major difference in communication and leadership.
You know, and I guess obviously, which I believe, and I think you do too. I mean, communication is at the heart of what, especially when we go to another country.
Absolutely.
And if I don't have good communication skills, I'm out.
Well, you know, and there's something else too, Rick. Awareness. Something a lot of Americans don't realize is that no matter where you go on the planet, no matter where you go, Americans are always the leaders. They're always perceived as the leaders as well. Even if the country we're in doesn't like us, or if the people we're talking to want to destroy us, whatever, they always want to hear what we have to say. They're always looking. So that gives us a huge amount of influence, but also a huge responsibility. Just to at least understand and know people are watching, and the way I communicate makes a big difference.
Right, and it can also make a big difference, obviously, about how successful my business relationships are.
No question. And now, that's abroad. Same thing happens around the corner. The same thing happens here in Montgomery County. Same thing happens in Houston. If businesses communicate well and appropriately with international communities, they can be successful with those communities. Problem is, we try to communicate with others the way we communicate with Americans, and that generally doesn't work.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. Well, let me ask you, what motivated you to create Leaders Without Borders?
When I was working for corporate America, I worked for a large hotel company, and I was the guy that was in between management, leadership, and hundreds of employees who didn't speak English. Most of them spoke mostly Spanish. So in hotels, it's kind of the way it is. most of the people that clean the hotels, that work the hotels, that you don't see, most of them speak Spanish. But the same thing happens in restaurants and hospitals and in schools, things like that. So I was the guy in between. And when I left hotels, I wanted to really capitalize on that ability to be between one group of people and the other. And that's really how Leaders Without Borders started. It was more of a language communications company that evolved into a training and consulting firm.
You know, it's really interesting because, again, I go back, I can't help but think. I've got that checklist, and the government's given me a lot of information, and I want to do business, and yet the most important thing is how you're going to communicate. Mm-hmm. That's not a Rosetta Stone class
no.
at all. I can learn the language,
right.
But I have to learn the nuance of the language.
Having taught languages for so long, you touch a really important point. So many people I've talked to, even recently, tell me, well, I'm going to learn Spanish. I'm just going to learn Spanish, and that way I'll just deal with my employees. The problem is it's the equivalent of you saying, Carlos, today I'm going to learn to play piano, and tomorrow I'm going to give a recital. It takes so much time, especially the nuance, the timing, and things like that. So learning languages from a software program does not give you personality. What you have to have is personality and the ability to communicate. You don't need to learn a language for that. You need to learn communication for that. So that's kind of what we teach. Of course, we teach languages if the company requires so, but mainly it's more communication. It's more understanding how to interact with someone who doesn't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and obviously that's a very important thing. Well, you know, one of the programs you also offer, kind of broaden the discussion, is executive coaching.
Yes, sir.
And what are your main objectives in this type of program?
The biggest thing with executive coaching is helping the executive understand power and understand authority, understand how an executive is perceived by other people from other countries. One of the biggest mistakes executives make that we've seen over the years is that execs want to treat others the way they treat Americans. In America, we're all the same. And the president was on somewhere, I just listened to him on the internet saying, we're all the same. It doesn't matter who you are, we're all the same. In other countries, that's not the way it is. In other countries, there is a president, and there is a hierarchy. Even if it's not mentioned, but there's a definite hierarchy, and you have to respect that hierarchy. And you can't step on any toes, literally, in other countries. And that's the majority of other countries, including Russia, China, name it. So when Americans go out and try to lead people from other countries by telling them we're all the same, it generally works the opposite. We lose our posture, we lose our authority because of things like that.
Basically, we can't take our culture, all of it, with us when we travel and try to do business in another country.
We have to have a global perspective, yes,
right.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. Very interesting. What are some of the other programs you offer?
Well, there's another one that we have called Speakers Without Borders. That's just helping folks become more eloquent in front of groups that are international. So if you're going to give a presentation or training or you're going to speak to a large group of people who don't speak English or who are from other countries, there's a certain way of speaking also that makes a difference. So Speakers Without Borders and also Markets Without Borders. That's the third. So we have leaders, speakers, and markets. And markets is just interacting with international markets. So that one has been most popular here in the United States because everybody wants to enter the emerging markets, the bigger markets, like the Hispanic market or the Asian market, et cetera. So we've specialized in the Hispanic market.
You know, we're back to the checklist. They want to enter those markets, but
Sure.
They really don't, I would say, or I wouldn't as well, have a clue of how important it is of certain things that are not going to be on that checklist, for sure.
And we try to include some things like this because it's funny you mentioned checklists. I just developed one recently for a big association here in Houston. Part of the checklist is it includes nuance, little things like, for example, what we call the 5 F's of marketing to Hispanics, which is food, family, friends, faith, and fun. You must have food in every event you have. And if you don't have food, you're going to miss the hearts of the people that are coming to your events. As a marketer, for example, a bank or a big organization, you try to bring people in. We come in, Hispanics will come in, or first-generation Hispanics, I should say, just to be clear, will be more appreciative of what you feed us or feed them than of what you say. So you have to feed us first. And the food has to be plentiful, and it has to be real food. And so there's all these things that people just don't understand.
Yeah, and that would be something I would trip up on, too. I mean, Let's eat, then let's talk.
Right, always. I mean, and the thing is, for whatever reason in America, we do it backwards. Or we don't eat, and we'll go hours without any water in meetings. And in other countries, you don't do anything without eating first.
Wow.
Everything has to be preceded by food.
Well, let me ask you, a number of your programs obviously deal with culture change or the change differences in culture. Why is it that a company's culture is so important to the success of the business?
Well, mainly because the culture itself identifies the values, the beliefs, sort of the behaviors that are accepted within that company. And like we said earlier, if the values and beliefs are of one type or addressing one specific set of needs, then you're not including, and when that inclusion really includes 60 to 70% of your organization, like some of these do, then you're missing a real potential there. For instance, a large restaurant organization that we work with, about 40 to 50% of their business is all Spanish only. In fact, their staff is all Spanish only, and this is hundreds of people. If they don't have the flexibility to understand both sides or just to understand who they're working with, then really the bottom line people, the ones that are at the front line, the ones that turn on the coffee machines at 4 a.m, will not show up. They'll be disengaged. That's why it's so important. You really want to look for ways to include everyone that's on your workforce.
Well, this even falls in, I think it sounds like, into the efficiency, the ability that if I relate to you and understand you, then you will work, you'll be more productive.
Right. Now, there's something to be said about that, Rick, and this is where it gets really interesting, because you also hear people say, if they're here, they must speak English. Let me tell you this, that's fine, that's true, unless you own the business. And when you own the business and you understand the bottom line, implications of having people just clean your hotel, then you don't say, at least they'll speak English. You say, at least they'll work for me. There's a big difference.
Right.
And that attitude is what we also combat from time to time.
Well, Dr. Carlos, this is a wonderful discussion. I need to take a short break right now, though. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you'll stay with us. On the other side of the break, we're going to talk a little bit about competing globally and some of the things that you can do to be a better competitor. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Are you planning on growing, expanding, or possibly selling your business? All of these business opportunities require developing strategies and setting goals in order to achieve success. Providing specialized consulting in these and other key business decisions is what Silver Fox Advisors have been doing since 1986. Let us help you today. Call us at 713-343-3718. It might be the most profitable call that you ever make.
Are you paying too much for your personal or business insurance? Patricia Cooper Insurance on FM 1488 and Tamina Road is an independent agency that can shop multiple carriers to find the best rates and coverages to fit your specific needs. Call us today at 281-356-9955 and let us go to work for you. Patricia Cooper Insurance, where our customers are treated like family.
Have a legal question? Are you a resident of Montgomery County? Call 281-645-6344 to talk to a volunteer attorney from the Woodlands Bar Association. We answer the phones on the first Monday of every month at 281-645-6344 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. to provide general legal information and information about legal resources to Montgomery County residents.
Tailorized PR works exclusively to get your business noticed. Public relations is how others perceive you and your company. By tailorizing the marketing strategy exclusively to your business, your story is told. Tailorized PR services include networking, social media, blogs, press releases, public appearances, and event planning. To learn about Tailorized PR, call Margie Taylor at 936-828-6881 or visit the website at tailorizedpr.com. My business is tailored to yours.
Running a business is hard. Pressure to maximize profits and minimize loss continue to grow. Schooley Mitchell of Houston can help. Their independent consultants will ensure you are receiving the best communications and credit card processing services at the best prices. Most importantly, their services are completely risk-free. If they don't find savings for you, there is no fee. Contact Schooley Mitchell of Houston today to find out. Call 832-314-1815 or visit their website at schooleymitchell.com/JM Polio.
You are listening to the Weekly Business Hour. This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox Advisor, and welcome back for our third segment of the program today. And by the way, if you haven't liked us on Facebook, please do so. The Weekly Business Hour has its own Facebook page, and love to have you like us so you can stay up with our programs and receive our podcast each week as they're produced after the show. Well, Dr. Carlos, we're talking about the importance of culture, understanding cultures in other countries, particularly when we're trying to do business with them. And I'd like to shift gears right now and talk about competing globally. I mean, that has become very important. Even a lot of small businesses, and I had one business in my life that we started. We sold product around the world, but it was more on the checklist basis. Sure. We had people place orders through distributorship, so we didn't really have to go market the product. It was marketed by distributors. But how can we communicate in a way to be more global friendly in general? How can we do that if we're interested in doing business overseas?
I think part of the for sure get help if you're not doing it already with the results you want, because there's so much nuance and there's so much difference with different companies and different countries also. So you want to focus. You want to focus your efforts on that end, because otherwise, I mean, if you're Coca-Cola, you don't have to worry, because they have the budgets that they're capable of doing this. But if you're a smaller firm, and by smaller I don't mean mom and pop, which would also be, of course, important, but just a smaller firm, then you have to focus where you're headed, and part of what that means is understanding that every country has its own way of doing business, especially the bigger countries that we're so attracted to. But if you go down to South America, it's the same thing. There's like 5 or 10 different forms of Spanish in South America, and plus every one of them has a sub-Spanish, because they have their own dialect, which they're very proud of. And not understanding these things can get you into pretty big trouble, or you can run out of resources. So I think the best way to be competitive on a global scale is to really focus what you're doing by finding someone to give you a hand, or just some advice as to how to go about what you're doing, what you're marketing, what you're trying to get out. Because some countries will go online to purchase products, but others won't. And there's just different ways. My wife and I have purchased things from China. They've taken 3 months to get to home, and by the time they get to us, they don't look anything like they looked on the website. So the way they're marketing their product is very good in terms of marketing, because she bought a dress or something for a little girl that we foster, and when the dress got to our home, it seemed like the dress was made of plastic, but if you look at it online, it's beautiful. So the way they're marketing to us made sense to them, and it did to us. The product would be a different thing, right? But the whole bottom line, though, is that they understood how to market to us, and I don't know that we understand how to do that in other countries.
Right. Yeah. And obviously, if you don't know how to market your products or services, your chance of success is greatly reduced, if at all.
Independent of the product itself. So you have to see those two as different.
Right.
And just the language you use as well, like we were saying earlier. If you use a different version of the English, even translators, how you get things translated. We've been translating information for 20 years, and it's always been very difficult, because translating, you have to literally rewrite information. You have to turn it into the culture, that the target culture, the target language, and it's the same thing. Without that nuance, it's very difficult to be successful.
Well, it makes a lot of sense to me. Let's talk about the Hispanic market, and even domestically here in this country. Obviously, is a growing market, not just for consumers but for business. Sure. Huge growth in Hispanic-owned businesses and internationally as well. How does a business leader, someone who has started a business, successfully enter that market? And I know we don't have all day, but can you give us some tips?
Just real fast. Don't hire a token Hispanic person and think you've done it. That happens a lot. And I've been a Hispanic token person before, years past, not proud of it. They hire me and think that because I'm on staff now, they've got the market cornered. So that usually doesn't work. If you're going to have an initiative, even large organizations, banks and hospitals and things, they really have to treat it like a strategic matter, and they have to take it all the way to the top, like anything else, with the budget and the importance it should have, and then really structure a way that includes not marketing to Hispanics the way you would market to other groups. And what that means is you do have to use cultural intelligence and understand that the differences are perceived as either good or bad. And in general, most organizations will market to Hispanics like they do everyone else, because the person advising them is a first or third or second generation Hispanic himself and doesn't have necessarily that knowledge. So again, like we said earlier, Rick, it's getting advice. It's really making sure that what you're trying to do makes sense from a business perspective, but also from a cultural and linguistic perspective. Other things we say include food, family, friends, faith, fun, always in everything you do. Right, so for promotional, for getting groups together, things like that. Without food, without friends, family, if you don't bless some of your events, people get turned off, and they get turned on when you do bless them, because Hispanics, 90% are Christian. There's a huge Catholic influence, but it's mainly Christian, and so they go right in line with some of our more conservative values either way. So just understanding these things and not being afraid. That's another thing. Some people shy away from it because they're scared. They just don't know what to do. It's not expensive, but it is expensive to ignore, for sure.
Well, would you agree? It sounds like, I need to take my current marketing plan, if you will, set it aside, and really write from scratch, including some elements, I'm sure, but write a marketing plan, if you will, as a guideline to market to that to the Hispanic market.
Yes, sir. Yes, it's a whole initiative. It's the companies and organizations that are successful in the Hispanic market actually do that. They hire firms, or they themselves have staff to rewrite their marketing plan to make it more specific based on the target audience, based on who they're trying to market to.
Well, let me ask you, if you were an entrepreneur here in Montgomery County with a business producing a product service, how excited would you be about the Hispanic market? How big do you think that market really is?
Well, literally untapped. It's really amazing how that's why when I drive up and down 45 and I'm just looking at all these businesses, I'm saying to myself, we don't know these things exist. I mean, the Hispanic community itself tends to be a little isolated, but there's 25,000 people who speak Spanish in the Woodlands, and nobody even realtors know. And you ask a realtor, they'll say, well, they buy 3 to 5 houses at a time. So there's a lot of money, there's a lot of opportunity, and in every part of Montgomery County, there's pockets of people who speak mostly Spanish or Hispanic, who represent a tremendous opportunity. It's just knowing how to reach them with your product and service would be a big something to do for 2016 for sure.
Well, I think that's a great encouragement to anyone who's listening that has business, offers product services, even on a business-to-business basis. Right. And I don't want to leave that out because you build your business, you look for markets.
Right.
And I think part of the thing, as you mentioned, you're kind of, in my way of thinking, kind of locked out of certain markets, not because of something you do, it's what you don't do.
Agree.
And so it's really interesting. Well, Dr. Carlos, I can't thank you enough for taking time to join us today. You've enlightened me. I hope you've enlightened our listeners. If people want to get in touch with you to learn more about the programs you offer, what's the best way for them to do that?
They could go to our website. It's leaderswithoutborders.com.
And I would encourage you to do that. There's a lot of great information there. And like you say, you're really building bridges.
Yes, sir.
And help people get in the door. So thank you very much for joining us. And let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, the archive of the show will be posted later if you didn't catch it all or you want to re-listen just so you can be sure that you took the right notes, right, that you got everything down. Look for that archive posted on the IR Lone Star website under the Weekly Business Hour. To finish out this portion of the show, I'm going to touch on entrepreneurship for just a moment. Last week, and apparently with some popular reception, I talked about busting myths of entrepreneurship, and I covered a few of them. And there was one more I wanted to bring up which I sort of laughed when I read this article that I mentioned last week on Fox News, and that is the myth that entrepreneurs have more freedom, less stress, and no bosses. If you believe that, then I think you're at the wrong place in entrepreneurship, because there's a good chance if you start your business, you're passionate and serious about it, you're going to work 24/7. Now, that doesn't literally mean you're going to be at a desk or behind a machine or a counter, but you're going to be thinking about it. Because initially you're probably going to be all in, taking care of all aspects of the business, wearing every hat. And the bottom line is everybody has a boss. I hear a lot of corporate people, as I call them, corporate escapees. Well, I just don't want somebody telling me what to do. I don't want to report to the boss. I don't want to fill out those forms, those reports, and all that. But you still have a boss. If you borrowed money, you got the bank. They're a boss. You have a family, a spouse. In a sense, they're your partner, but in a sense, they're a boss too. So the fact that nobody tells you where to go on Monday morning to make that first sales call, that may be a relief. But the bottom line is not a lot of things change in that regard. One other myth that I sort of laughed at as well, and I want to share it with a little bit of time we have left, and that is corporate America is evil. Well, we're in the political season right now. So we hear a lot of politicians bouncing off of corporate America, Wall Street, all these things. Of course, they're the ones supplying all the money to run the campaign. So it's an interesting situation there. But the idea is the problem with companies and the companies that get in trouble that we read about in the paper and whatnot, it's leadership. It's the leadership. It's not the company. It's not the corporation. It's when we have bad leadership. And bad leadership, regardless of wherever it is, can get you into trouble. So don't let that turn you away from being an entrepreneur. But again, remember, when you become an entrepreneur, at least initially, you're not going to have more freedom, you're not going to have less stress, and you're still going to have bosses. Now, not to say that with some hard work, some good luck, and some real push that your business can't get to the point where you can take some stress off and take some time off. It happens to be one of the big complaints I hear from businesses I mentor, but it's still going to be there. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break at this point in the show, and we'll be back in the final hour. I'm going to talk to you with my tip of the week about diagnosing marketing needs as we head into 2016. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
Running a business is hard. Pressure to maximize profits and minimize loss continue to grow. Schooley Mitchell of Houston can help. Their independent consultants will ensure you are receiving the best communications and credit card processing services at the best prices. Most importantly, their services are completely risk-free. If they don't find savings for you, there is no fee. Contact Schooley Mitchell of Houston today to find out. Call 832-314-1815 or visit their website at schooleymitchell.com/JM
Tailorized PR works exclusively to get your business noticed. Public relations is how others perceive you and your company. By tailorizing the marketing strategy exclusively to your business, your story is told. Tailorized PR services include networking, social media, blogs, press releases, public appearances, and event planning. To learn about Tailorized PR, call Margie Taylor at 936-828-6881 or visit the website at tailorizedpr.com. My business is tailored to yours.
Heaven's Army of Resources and Recreation Center is a 501c3 nonprofit organization featuring a 10,000 square foot building located at 19325 FM 1485 West, New Caney, Texas. At Heaven's Army, we offer over 26 different services free for all ages, from karate, dance, drug and alcohol classes, anger management, parenting, food and clothing pantries, to just name a few. We are supported solely by volunteers and private donations. Our main mission is to glorify God in all that we do. At Heaven's Army, we strive to be a hand up, not a handout. Come check us out at 19325 FM 1485 West, New Caney, Texas, or call for more information at 281-689-5864. You may also learn more about Heaven's Army by visiting our website at heavensarmyofresources.com.
Are you planning on growing, expanding, or possibly selling your business? All of these business opportunities require developing strategies and setting goals in order to achieve success. Providing specialized consulting in these and other key business decisions is what Silver Fox Advisors have been doing since 1986. Let us help you today. Call us at 713-343-3718. It might be the most profitable call that you ever make.
Are you paying too much for your personal or business insurance? Patricia Cooper Insurance on FM 1488 and Tamina Road is an independent agency that can shop multiple carriers to find the best rates and coverages to fit your specific needs. Call us today at 281-356-9955 and let us go to work for you. Patricia Cooper Insurance, where our customers are treated like family.
This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox Advisor. Welcome you back to the Weekly Business Hour. We're in the final segment of our show today, and I think Dr. Carlos and Leaders Without Borders has given us a lot to think about, particularly as we do business in other countries and with other cultures, even within our own country. I'd like to finish up today's show. One of the things I'd like to do during December myself is to take a look at the plan for next year, in this case 2016. It's a good time of year, particularly towards the latter part of the month, to do some planning. And part of that planning, in fact, one of the most important parts of the plan that I look at, whether I reduce it to a single page or a few notes that I can follow or do a full-blown plan, and that's the marketing plan. I think it's important that at least once a year we take a look at what our marketing plan is all about and what we need to include in it. And again, at this point in time, look back on 2015, look at the results, which are reflected in revenues, which are reflected in our gross margins and profits as well. And what are we doing right? And sometimes it's easy to forget some of the basics, so I thought I'd take a few minutes today and share with you some of the basics of marketing and encourage you as we enter into the last few days of the year to take a look at your marketing plan and put together something for 2016. First and foremost, when you put a marketing plan together, and this will be obvious to some of you, and I apologize for that, but I think it's important to understand what your customer cares about. Whether you're in a retail working on a consumer, customer-to-customer basis or a business-to-business basis, you really need to understand what your customers are thinking about. Many times I have worked with businesses that were 20, 30, 40 years old, and they really had yet to understand what the customer cared about. They thought they knew because they had all that history, if you will, all those years of working with customers, but you can never do enough research on your own, or you can outsource it and try to understand better what the customer wants from your business. And the easiest, simplest way to do it, but sometimes intimidating to some people I've found, just to ask the customer. Now, you can do this through surveys. If you deal with customers face-to-face or over the phone, put together 2 or 3 questions and make it a part of each conversation for a period of time and try to record the results once the conversation's over. I mean, there are a lot of ways to do this, but knowing what your customers find compelling and what factors they weigh when making purchasing decision is essential, because this is what sets you apart from your competition. It's essential to how you communicate and create value for them. Again, you can have the best mousetrap in town, but if you can't market it and convince the customer they need it and that you are the best, then you're not going to win the game. And the more you know about this, the more you understand what your customers are thinking, why they're doing business, why they're building a product, obviously the better off you'll be. Another thing is, and I have found, I've seen this a lot lately, and I see more people paying attention, what is the customer's biggest challenge on a daily basis, and that your product or service could help them solve? In other words, the fact that they have problems with their plumbing, obviously the plumber can help them with those problems, but how you help them is important too. And this is where we see a lot of, if you will, plumbers offering convenience, the fact they'll show up on time or they'll give you a discount or whatnot. I mean, people are understanding what's important to people. Obviously, time is important. You don't have to ask most of your customers that. A lot written about it, a lot talked about. But these things sometimes shift the important characteristics of what customers find are important. But the key is you want to find out what's important so that you identify and market your company to provide the best value. In other words, you'll be the plumber who will always be on time, or you'll pay for that, or somehow convey to the customer so that they don't build up frustration, and they will seek you out first. The third one is about customer frustrations. And going back to the plumber or the cable guy or whoever on a consumer-to-consumer basis, what are the biggest frustrations with your industry? Well, people coming to your home to perform services, the fact they don't show up on time, the fact that they're messy, the fact that they leave things undone. The fact is they don't fix it and they leave and they don't tell you that they were unable to fix it. There's lack of information about when the follow-up is going to occur. Lots of things in that example. But understanding any of the preconceived notions, because customers have these ideas before you step through the door. So if you can build your marketing message to basically say, hey, we avoid these things. We have a program, a service, a product that will allow you to avoid these common pitfalls. It's very important. The other thing that I would want to mention is, what is the typical process your customer goes through in buying a product or service? as the fourth item here. What is it that causes them to call a particular plumber? What is it that causes a business to look for a particular machine shop? Is it a referral? Is it the tour of the shop? Always was important when I was in manufacturing, was a tour of the facility and the things that we would pick up indirectly. But knowing where, when, and what to communicate to that prospect keeps you involved at every step of the way in the position you to be the one they buy from, particularly when they're buying a product or a one-time service. You want to be there with your marketing message, with your information at the right time, with the right information. Fifth, what is or who is your ideal customer? I find this one of the most difficult things for most of my clients to tell me when I ask them, because this is important in so many ways, is that what are the characteristics of the customer that would work best with what you have to offer and how you offer it? The fact that you can zero in on some kind of profile of the perfect customer for your business may not be the perfect customer for your competitor, but for your business comes out, and it makes a huge difference, not only in how you market, but in the dollars you spend, that you spend them in the right place when you do advertising, when you look for lead generation, when you look to advertise, even the sign that you put over the door. What works best for your ideal customer? So it is critical that you find out what that ideal customer, and again, I feel it's very important each year to re-examine that ideal customer and make sure it still fits and still works for your business. The next one is customer service. We all provide some kind of customer service, but are we meeting the customer's expectations by what we're doing? You have to define what the customer is really looking for when you provide customer service. You've got to pursue constantly honest feedback about the performance. Now, people do that through cards, through calls, follow-ups. You've got to always be communicating with your customers, particularly if you're in a business that uses or has the advantage of repeat customers. You've got to make sure that you are doing the job, because many times there's somebody between you and the customer, an employee, a service person, there was a package delivery. You got to make sure that the customer is satisfied, because many times, as we've learned, and most of you know, customers a lot of times won't tell you when they're unhappy. There are exceptions, and those are the ones we remember that tell you loud and clear, but many, many times they will just go to another provider the next time they need that product or service. So it's very important that you know that. One other area I want to touch on is what can you offer that no one else can? And I think this time of year, as you do your plan for the upcoming year of 2016, is to look at your product and service offerings and see what, if anything, is there a way for you to offer a service product in a different way, a different product that fills a void. In other words, there's a niche out there that's not being served. And I was talking to someone last week that provides a particular service into a very narrow niche. And as they explained it to me, I said, gosh, I'd never thought about that. But they focus on this niche, and they have become the leading provider in this very narrow niche. And they didn't get there by just deciding to go a direction and go. They spent some time, they thought about it, they researched it, they put a plan together. So again, this time of year, great thing to do for the new year. Look if there's anything else you could be doing, service or product-wise. You know, one of the most crippling mistakes we make in our business is when companies let our past successes, our daily habits, or convenient misconceptions, because we aren't talking to people, be the guide in determining our marketing plan. I encourage you, don't let this happen to you in 2016. Well, as we wind our show down today, I want to remind you to always stay in touch with us here at Lone Star Community Radio. You can do so by our website at irlonestar.com. Stay up on everything that's happening in Montgomery County. And as we close the show today, I want to give a big Lone Star thanks to our sponsors: Patricia Cooper Insurance Company, Scooty Mitchell and Jerry Polio, Taylorized PR with Margie Taylor, and the Silver Fox Advisors. Also want to thank Dr. Carlos for sharing his experience and expertise. Stay engaged this week and keep your focus on what counts in your business. Next week, we will host a special business forum, What Does 2016 Hold for Your Business?, featuring Dick Hendy, one of the area's leading small business financial experts, and Jerry Polio, a marketing expert with both domestic and international experience. Thank you for joining us, and until next week, remember to stay in touch with what's happening in Montgomery County right here on Lone Star Internet Radio. Thank you for listening to this week's edition of the Weekly Business Hour, brought to you by the Silver Fox Advisors, the #1 mentoring and business advising group in the greater Houston area. If you have a question or a comment, please contact me on my Facebook page or by email, rick@irlonestar.com.